There are some films you watch and move on from, and there are some that don't leave you that easily. Not because of the story, but because they quietly hold up a mirror to parts of you have been ignoring. This is just a personal movie review of दो दीवाना एक शहर में. But somewhere between its silence and simplicity, it stopped feeling like a film and started feeling personal. Let me start with something uncomfortable. Not everything you call insecurity is actually about looks, voice, or confidence. Sometimes it's conditioning, old words, old moments, old memories that stayed longer than they should have. This story looks simple: two people, an arranged marriage, a few conflicts. But if you really pay attention, this is not a love story. This is about how people hide. Roshni means light, but she lives like someone who is trying not to be seen. Big glasses, no real photos, always withdrawn. And the reason? Not bullying, not cruelty, just one small moment. Someone said she was pretty, and her own mother added, "Everything is fine except her nose." That's all it took. Because a child doesn't filter words, they store them. From that day, she didn't feel beautiful. She felt not enough. So she didn't try to shine. She learned how to dim herself. Shashank. The name means moon. And like the moon, he exists quietly, not fully expressed. He doesn't hide his face, he hides his voice, avoids speaking, avoids attention. Because once he stood in a classroom and stammered, people laughed. Even the teacher didn't hold that moment. And that moment stayed. If I speak, I'll be judged. So he didn't stop being capable, he just stopped being visible. Now, look at them. She hides her face, he hides his voice. Different patterns, but the root is same. And there is one more character in this story, Naina. Her story hits different. She's not hiding, she's trying. She's trying too hard to be seen the right way. She wants to look perfect. She wants to look fit for her husband. So she does everything: intermittent fasting, keto, vegan, no carbs, ba 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 ba. Constantly checking her weight, constantly adjusting herself. Not for health, but for approval. And then comes a moment after losing weight, after all that effort, he looks at her and says, "You look sick." And suddenly everything breaks. Because when she gains weight, she's called fat. When she loses weight, she's called sick. She asks only one honest question: what am I even doing this for? Whom am I even doing this for? And that hits hard. Because this is not just Naina, this is so many people trying to become a version that will be finally accepted, changing their body, changing their habits, changing their identity, not because they want to, but because they are scared of being not enough. That's the cost of being perfect. You lose track of what you feel and start living based on what others might say. Coming back to Roshni and Shashank, they meet not as healed people, but as people who are tired of hiding. There is a moment where he shares her photo and she reacts strongly. It looks like overreaction, but it's not. For her, being seen never felt safe. And then comes the turning point. He wants to quit his job, avoid presentation, because it's easier to stay the same than to risk being judged again and again. But something shifts. He actually asks himself, how long am I going to live like this? Then one day he walks onto the stage, his voice shakes, he stumbles, he stammers, but he doesn't stop. That day he's not perfect, but finally he's free. And her, she sees a photograph of her that Shashank took. No filters, no hiding, just a real one. And for the first time, she doesn't judge herself. She sees. That day, she doesn't become beautiful, she becomes unafraid. Actually, they both didn't fix each other, they didn't transform overnight. They just created a space where hiding was no longer necessary. And maybe that's what love actually is, not perfection, not change, but safety. Now, this part matters. We see so many people trying to be liked, trying to be perfect, overthinking everything. Not because they are wrong, but because they are scared of being seen as wrong. That's not confidence, that's fear wearing a polite face. And the truth is, you cannot impress everyone. You cannot always be right. And you can't control what people think. So, if your life is built around managing other people's opinions, you're not living, you're just performing. And one last thing, your insecurities are not meant for random comment sections. Your pain is not public content. You don't need strangers reacting to you. You need someone who actually can sit with you, because healing doesn't happen in noise, it happens in safe spaces. So, if you saw yourself in any one of the characters, understand that it's not your fault. But staying there forever, that can change.